Hello and welcome back to Bookish. I'm really excited today. I'm going to be participating in my first readathon this week, and so I was going to share my TBR list for that readathon with you. The readathon is the People of Color Readathon, or POCathon, and that readathon was started by booktubers, or is sponsored, I should say, by booktubers Diana in Color, Min Kobayashi, Storyglyph, Paula Mancera, and Ghost Reader. I've left links to their channels in the description down below. And you know, if you don't know anything about People of Color Readathon, you can go check those out, and they'll have the challenges for you listed there. But I saw this on, I think, Min Kobayashi's channel, and I've been following and subscribed to the other people who are sponsoring it, and so I've been looking at their TBR list and was excited to kind of get a chance to share mine with you. By the way, my dog Ike, I don't know if you could see him, my dog Ike has decided to join us today for for my video. This could lead to some intermittent and unplanned barking and some whining. He's sad because my son, who's been taking him for a walk almost every day, left the house to go shopping and didn't take Ike with him. And that's not my son's fault. Ike is not very well behaved. But anyway, here we go with my People of Color readathon TBR list. Which may be a little bit too ambitious, but we'll see. So first of all, I'm already reading Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. So I'm going to finish that up, and I'm not sure that this should actually count because it was actually on my July-August TBR list anyway. But I've got about 100 pages to go, and I'm hoping to finish this book today. So I did want to mention that I was already reading this, and you know, I guess if I don't finish some other books, I may go back and count this one as a part of my People of Color readathon. But I think a lot of people on YouTube have read this book and know about this book, and I'll do a review of this book later on. So that's number one. One of the challenges on the People of Color readathon is to read poetry by a poet of color, and so I'm going to actually reread these poems by the Mexican poet Octavio Paz. I've read most of them in this collection called Configurations, but I'm going to read them again. Now, I don't speak Spanish, but there's a really kind of cool feature in this book where they have the English translation of the poem on the right side, which is the one I'll read. But it's nice to see it in Spanish because, you know, in a way, even though I don't speak Spanish, you can kind of see the translator at work here in terms of the rhythm and the line spacing, and all those kinds of things are really important in poetry. And also, even if I don't know what the words mean, I can kind of pick up on the sounds of the word. Anyway, I just kind of think that's cool. It's going to make this, to me, an extra fun kind of reread. So I'm going to read some of the poetry of Mexican poet Octavio Paz for one of the challenges of the People of Color readathon, which is to read poetry by an author of color. So that's number one. Second, I want to read these short stories by Nigerian writer, and I believe he lives in England now, Ben Okri. I've had this collection of stories, I think there's 6 stories in here, called The Stars of the New Curfew. I've had this collection of stories for quite some time, and you know, somehow it just never was that thing I picked up to read, so I'm really happy about the People of Color readathon because it's challenging me to go back and read these stories. Also, since they're short stories, if I'm pushed for time, I feel like I can read, you know, 1 or 2 of the stories and have fulfilled, you know, that part of the intent of the People of Color readathon to have read stories by an author of color. And like I said, I believe Ben Okri is from Nigeria. So I wanted to read these, and like I said, I've had this short story book for quite some time. So the next book on my POCathon TBR is a book of 4 novellas by the Japanese author Kenzaburo Oe. That's how I'm saying his last name. O-E. Oe is how I'm going to say his last name because I don't know, and I probably should have looked up how to say it. But this is a book of 4 relatively short novellas by a Japanese author that are set in Japan. And again, I thought this gave me an opportunity to read some work by an author that I've never read before. And again, I've had this book for some time. And because they're novellas, you know, if I can't get through the whole book, I can probably read one or two of the novellas and have read this book. This would satisfy the challenge in the People of Color Readathon to read a book in translation. So this is definitely a book that was translated from the Japanese to English. So this is another one of my books. It is called Teach Us to Outgrow Our Madness. It's a collection of novellas by Kenzaburo Oe. I also want to read There by Tommy Orange. This is a book that's been around, or people on BookTube have been talking about for some time, and I've thought about going out and buying it, but my birthday is tomorrow, and so I thought, you know what, I'll ask for it as a gift, and hopefully I'll get it, and I'm really looking forward to reading that book about, which really is about the Native American experience outside of the typical, I think, kind of reservation stories we get about Native Americans. This is, I believe, a story about a group of Native American young men who live, I want to say, in Oakland, but they live in an urban atmosphere, and I really thought that was interesting, kind of the different perspectives that Native Americans who don't live or aren't necessarily a part of that on the reservation lifestyle. I really thought that would be interesting. So that was another one of the books that I wanted to read. And then finally, I kind of have my choice, and this is where I'm going to make a decision, pressed for time. One of the challenges in the People of Color-a-thon list was to read a book that's about discrimination or immigration or something like that. So I have two choices. One is one of my typical, hey, I bought this a long time ago at a used bookstore in college, and that's Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. I really want to read this, and it is relatively short, so it might fit better in this readathon that's going on. But I've been seeing a lot of James Baldwin video clips on Twitter lately, and he's such an eloquent spokesman for the African American experience in the United States that it really is almost like serendipity, kind of those clips being on Twitter and me seeing this this opportunity to engage in the People of Color Readathon. I kind of thought that was fairly perfect, and I think the book's only about 208 pages long. You can tell my copy's old and in really bad shape. But in addition to that, and maybe if things go, you know, exactly right, I also wanted to read this copy of Paradise by Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison, African-American Nobel Prize in Literature winner, and the author of really what I think are some of my favorite and most powerful books, you know, of the last 50 years, Beloved and Jazz and Song of Solomon are some really powerful books. And I've had this copy, hardback copy of Paradise for some time, and again, it's just one of those books I just never quite gotten around to picking up. Other books have always crowded out, so I have time. I'm going to try to fit this book in as well. So that's my, and this book, or Go Tell It on the Mountain, plus Oe's novellas, plus There by Tommy Orange should let me fulfill the requirement of the challenge of reading books with central characters who come from three different racial backgrounds, or three different groups of people of color, and so I thought that would help me fulfill that as well. Anyway, there's my People of Color Readathon TBR list, and I encourage you, if you're interested at all in it, to check out the websites of the 5 sponsors, which I've listed below, and do your own reading in this area of people, in this, as a part of this People of Color Readathon. I'm really excited about it, in part because it's my first readathon as a booktuber, but also because it's going to kind of give me this reason to go and read some books that I've had and have really, I guess, kind of been ignoring for a while. So it's really kind of a great wake-up call about that. Anyway, let me know what you think about my TBR, or if you know anything about any of these authors and books, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.